It'll only take 2 weeks. Just 2. I mean, I'm not a professional like the guys on TV that can do it in 1. So 2 weeks. It's all it'll take.
Swagger down the street with your red lips and funky beat. You better hold your head up to the sky. I'm gonna roll with you till the day I die.
Yeah, so it's things and stuff and that. So I've been contemplating my navel quite a bit lately. It's been raining for a few days, and it sort of makes it difficult to get anything done outside, particularly where we live. I've been walking the dog in the piss and rain. She loves it. Me, not quite so much. I mean, if I could put a tonic on my head that made hair grow with just a bit of water, then it'd be great. If we had tanks to collect some nice fresh water instead of the toxic chlorine shit that comes out of our taps now, that'd also be good. Anyway, my point of this video, this one here, yes, I've probably been toking a bit too much of the happy weed. I don't actually do that, just figuratively, not literally. Bit of flights of fancy. So there's a car that we call a Wombat. I don't have a picture of it, which is just really quite irresponsible of me. I probably should have got a picture of this vehicle up. I probably should have got a picture of this vehicle up so that I could show you what I'm talking about. But in Australia, we call it a Wombat because it looks a bit like a wombat. So this car that we call a Wombat has quite a different configuration compared to what a lot of other vehicles have, and that's the so like early vans, the engine's under the seat, but these things still have a nose on them. So you've got a bonnet, and under the bonnet you've got all the things that normally run on the front of a motor: alternator, air conditioner, power steering, all that sort of stuff. But instead of the engine being right there, what they've done is the engine's under the seats. So I think these shafts are like a meter long or something like that. It's, like 3 feet or so. And the engine sits on its seat, but it also lays on its side so that the car can be lower, because some of the early vans had this big stonking stand-up engine in the middle, and it just took up a bunch of space, and it just made it not exactly all that comfortable with all the heat and it sitting up really high. Okay, let's not forget the other thing about these cars. So in a modern van, the motor's at the front and you sit behind it, so that provides some modicum of protection from accidents, and a lot of the time the engines are designed to like drop out underneath, so you get the impact into the front of the vehicle with the chassis rails. It hits the engine, which slows it down. The engine sort of pops out underneath. A lot of cars are like that. With the this van that I'm talking about, the old Wombat, the engine sits further back and lower, so you're still sitting on it, but you have a whole crumple zone in front of you. Your legs aren't in front of the wheels, they're behind the front axle, so all of that chassis, all of that suspension acts as a crumple zone. Now this is the 90s, so the safety's still not like a modern car, but you get the drift. So the old motors, your legs are the crumple zone, the engine's here, the bumper bar's here, your legs are here, so the heel of my hand is where your legs are. If you get hit in the front, you're basically screwed, because your legs end up absorbing the impact between the engine and whatever you've run into. It's part of the reason why they don't make them that way anymore. They've been working for years to find a better configuration. A lot of the configurations are not necessarily as good for storage, but since a lot of vans now are front wheel drive, particularly all the Euro stuff, then it's just basically a lightweight trailer being pulled around by, I don't know, it's a giant tuk-tuk, I guess. So I found one that's, 500,000 miles on it, like 700 odd thousand Ks. I don't want the engine. I don't want the gearbox out of it. But the van would be a pretty good basis to make an off-roading machine. It's really easy to lift a vehicle. In Australia, not so much. The legalities of the stuff that you're allowed to do in this country is really quite annoying or officious or authoritarian, but you could lift it a bit, about 2 inches, maybe, you could get out of pretty easily. You could put some bigger wheels on it, which technically isn't really that right, but if it's just the tires and the rims themselves are not that bad, and as long as you have flared wheel arches to cover it, then it'll be okay. I saw a Mitsubishi, what are they called, a D400, the Delica, that had been lifted. It had a V8 with a supercharger in it, and they only came with a little pissy 4-cylinder motor in them. And it had massive stonking wheels on it with really big flared arches, you know, like massively flared arches. It actually didn't look that bad, but it made the vehicle like absolute maximum legal width and probably wouldn't be all that good for four-wheel driving, because the wheels would fall outside of where all the ruts were for everything else, because this van was wider than a Patrol or a Land Cruiser or something like that, or Ranger, which is what most, you know, four-wheel driving is done in these days. There's something to be said for using the Delica as a basis for this sort of thing, but it's something that's been done before. I'm trying to look for a little bit of uniqueness, a little bit of comfort, still trying to have a vehicle that drives like a car, not an old ladder chassis SUV, ladder chassis four-wheel drive. So the Delica is built on basically on a Pajero chassis. The rest of the world, I think they call them like Monteros, things like that. So it's ladder chassis, torsion bar front end. So the engine's in the front, which gives you some modicum of protection. That they're still not really safe being a ladder chassis vehicle, but they're probably no less safe or even slightly less unsafe than like an early 90s Tarago, just based on the technology of the time of crumple zones and stuff. But this is something that's been done. This is something that's common. This is something that I see all the time, and it's not really what I'm looking for in this activity. So this Wombat, as we call them, this Wombat van, I thought I could get the body. It was in pretty good nick. The interior wasn't that bad at all. It was actually quite good. The interior of it was. So I thought, get this Wombat van, put a different motor in it that would fit. It's vaguely configured the same way, laying flat. So that would be a horizontally opposed motor like a H4 or a H6, like what you find in a Subaru. But what I thought is 3.6 litre Tribeca motor. These things come with a 2.4 litre motor that aren't in anything else. They're just only in that vehicle. It makes it really difficult to get any more power out of them, makes it really difficult to do anything out of them. The advantage of using a Subaru is they're from the same automotive group as Toyota, basically. So there's bits that are interchangeable, and the bits that aren't interchangeable, I mean, they're not quite interchangeable, but there are people that do adapter plates to bolt a Subaru motor to a Toyota gearbox, because there's a lot of people that like making WRXs and stuff rear wheel drive because it's much more fun for fully six skids. So I thought Prado transmission, because then you can retain the all-wheel drive system, only actually have proper low range and a proper set of gears, because these vehicles, being as old as they are, the old gearboxes in them only have 4 speeds. So a later model Prado, 5-speed manual, 5-speed auto would be great. Push button 4-wheel drive would be better than a stick, but can't necessarily avoid that. The only reason I've even been contemplating an auto is because it's going to be a bit of a dick around, because the stick sticks out of the top of a gearbox on a Prado, which comes into your hand. This would require a bunch of routing to get it up to the driver, unless you just had the passenger in the back shift gears for you. So 2-inch lift, couple of inch bigger tires, proper low-range gearbox, 3.6 litre 6-cylinder motor, maybe even jam a supercharger on it. I reckon I could get all of this done, all of it legal, for 20 grand. What can you buy for 20 grand that's a proper 4-wheel drive that seats 7 people comfortably? Well, 7 people, probably 6 people comfortably, but 7 people, or 4 people in captain's chairs and a dog. What can you get for 20 grand to do that? It will be a bit of stuffing around. I also don't have 20 grand, which is the why I'm talking about taking hits from the bong, because that's basically what all of this is. Anywho, not really a car channel, just spitballing here, guys. Just spitballing. Would a Wombat with a supercharged 3.6 litre engine that's probably 4 times the power as what the original one had be kind of cool? Comment or no. I mean, it's not that the cars are an attractive car, it's just the packaging is funky. Funky. If you can't be good at it, be excellent, or at least adequately polite to one another. And that's all I've got to say about that. Yeah, I completely forgot that I would also have to make sure that the wipers work the way that I like, because otherwise I'd just have to sell that fucking thing too.